David Bayer, the Holocaust, World War II. Folks, David is one of my Jewish survivors featured in my documentary, Yom HaShoah, The Holocaust Remembered. He tells a powerful, gripping story of what happened to him as a young boy. He was born in Poland. He worked in his father's shoe factory, and in 1942 his family was taken to Treblinka. That was a killing center, and they were all killed. David ended up in Auschwitz, tattoo number B74. They tattooed their arms, and he was liberated in 1945 by the Russians at the age of 23, weighing only 70 pounds. And I'll let David tell the rest of the story. It's a tremendously powerful story of human survival, the human will, the power of the human will, folks. And what we're going through today with Israel and everything that's going on in our world today, I think it would behoove us to watch these stories, to listen from them, to learn from them. And as the Holocaust survivors told me, you know, that they would tell their stories, and that we would tell their stories, and I, as a guardian of their stories, would share and tell their stories. Folks, young people need to watch this story. You need to watch my Holocaust film. It's very powerful, very enlightening, and history is trying to repeat itself today. We need to be forewarned. Forewarned is to be forearmed, folks. I know I'm preaching to the choir with a lot of you, but it needs to be said. Chet Howard, God bless you, sir. Thank you for making it possible for my YouTube audience and those around the world to watch David's story today. We lost David, by the way, in May of this year at 100 years old. So God bless him. And thank you, Chet, for making it possible for me to share this story in my Holocaust film with others. And you're a true brother, and I thank you. God bless you. Folks, if you'd like to sponsor a story like Chet, please, there's information in the video description of this video and on my website, LarryCapetto.com. Click on Sponsor a Veteran, and you'll see pictures of my veterans. I would ask that you please include the veteran's name in the donation, in the sponsorship, and that will help me know who you want to sponsor. I'd encourage those of you who would like to donate to my work. There's information in the comments section of this video and all my videos. There's a link in there, and you can donate to my work to help keep it going, folks. And I thank God for this opportunity to serve Him through my camera, the lens of my camera, and to serve my country. So it's been an incredible journey, and I'm happy to share David Bayer's story with you today. So tune into Voices of History Radio. It's been listened to over 40 countries across the world. I have a dedicated audience there, and I think you'll be blessed through the stories on my radio station also. There's therapeutic value in telling your story and listening to these stories now. A lot of people being helped, anxiety is being relieved through listening to these stories, how that happens. And I just know I'm supposed to keep doing it. So thank you for those of you helping me. God bless you. Thank you for subscribing to this channel. And I'll talk to you again. God bless you.
7 kilometers from the main Vistula River, who flows through Poland. The Germans came into my father. Let me tell you about my family. My father had a shoe factory. He employed maybe 15 to 20 people every once in a while. And me, and my mother, my sister, my little brother, my little sister, we helped in the factory, but my father shipped the shoes all over the country to stores. In the town Kozienice was a shoe town, actually. A lot of people were involved in the business. But the Germans came in September 39, at 9th of September, that 9th. And everything, and we ran away. We escaped to the woods in the forest. And we stayed about 2 days. The Germans came in and they tell us we should all come back to the city. And when we came home to our house, we find Germans in our house plundering, taking everything they can, shoes, leather, my mother's dishes, clothing, whatever they can. When we walked in, they were laughing and making fun of us. German soldiers, German officers. And a German came up to my father and said to him, "Why everybody doesn't like the Jews?" My father hesitated, said, "Because we don't hit back." He made a gesture with his hand. And I was scared that my father going to hit him, but he made just a gesture like this. And then my mother was crying. And she saw a German officer pulling down from a shelf a box of her Passover dishes, and pulled it down and crushed it right on the floor and broke a lot of porcelain that we had in our house for years, for maybe 100 years from family back there. And they took all the silver what they could, cups, for holidays, silver cups, and the other, everything the silver they took. The rest was broken. And then they left, and we had to organize and clean and try to hide some leather, some shoes. We had a big garden. We digged a hole, and we put a lot of stuff in the leather to hide, because they always took. The Germans were hungry for leather. They didn't have no leather in their own. And they took shoes for the women, for the children, whatever they can. Well, this was the beginning, and then later on, I had to go out, organize to bring food. We couldn't get out of the houses. They had curfews, and we couldn't do nothing. And then they burned down the synagogues, 2 synagogues. They burned them down right away. They put gasoline and burned it. And there was also there was a big castle. There used to be a king in our town from the 16th century, a beautiful castle. They burned that down too. And also they took all the Jews into the church. Everybody who they caught on the street, and people were outside waiting in a bakery to get bread. And who did they catch? Me. I went out to the bakery to get some bread and stay in line. It was after 6 o'clock. All the German soldiers came, grabbed everybody from the line and put it in the church. The church was across my house, right there. And my mother and my brother was looking for me, looking out the door, So I went over to the fence of the churchyard and motioned to my little brother, and he realized that I'm in the church, because I didn't come home. My mother was worried and crying. Well, they took us away to Radom, to a big city. A few days later, all the old men, and a lot of soldiers, Polish soldiers, they caught whoever they could find in the street, a man, they grabbed him and put him in a prison camp in Radom. My sister came there. She was 18, 19, going on 19. This was 1939, and she bribed a guard, a Polish guard, who was a collaborator with the Germans, and they bribed him and let me out. So I came back home. It was 30 kilometers from my town. It was the city, Radom, a big city. One day, Germans came to my house and took me out of the house. work, they call it. We need the Jews to work. And there were a lot of German trucks and like a garrison with German soldiers. And they asked me to take a battery from under a truck and exchange it to put in a new battery. And I couldn't do it because I didn't know what to do. They gave me some tools, and we didn't have no trucks in my town. There was horses and wagons. I never saw, and I was 16 years old, I was crying. It was September, it was cold. The snow was already on the ground, it was wet. And I lie down there, and I couldn't take the battery. I took finally the battery, I loosened it up, and the acid burned my whole clothing. It was a big hole in here. And I started crying. And they were laughing and taking pictures. The Germans were laughing, taking pictures. And I said, please let me go home. I want to exchange my clothing. No, the Brody called everybody over. They said, well, look at the Jew. He burned himself, and the skin was showing. Finally, it was dark to let me go. I went home. My mother was standing at the door and crying. This was other day, and then another day. And then they took Jewish people in front of my house to clean the sidewalk. And we were closed in the house, we couldn't peep through the window. My mother said, don't get away from the door, get away from the door, they're going to get you out. Sweeping the sidewalk with the hand, with a toothbrush, and laughing and taking pictures. And there was snow already, so they made us clean the snow. Constantly, every day. One other day, they came in. They didn't come into our house often because they didn't know there were Jews living there. Because across the church in a Christian area, there was a big house. So, but finally, little by little, they found out. They came in and got my father one day to work. My father was working on the other side of the church. My mother crying and said, my father is sick. They're going to help him. I should go exchange myself for him. And I did. I went over there, and because the German didn't pay attention, and my father sticked away, and when I booked the count how many people there. So this was another day. And then my father had four brothers. There were 5 kids, 5 brothers. He was the youngest. His youngest brother, the Germans caught to go to work in a building where there used to be the archdiocese from our town. Christian, they kicked all the priests out, and the German Gestapo took over that building. So my uncle went to work there for a Gestapo man. He made him a houseboy. He was shining his shoes. He was washing his laundry. So the German was good to him. He gave him food when he was left, when he went home. So my uncle asked the German if I could come exchange myself for him, because he's a young man, he just got married. So the German said, okay, send him over. So I went, exchanged myself for the. He was nice to me too. And I washed his laundry, and I cleaned his shoes in the house and everything else. And also he used me as a translator. I spoke German. I spoke a Jewish German, because the Jewish people, German is almost like German. He took me one day to translate for a Polish boy who was in a dungeon. They had a basement with a flap door. And there was a Polish boy locked up there before they claimed that he had a gun. He was maybe 20 years old, or 18 years old, I don't remember. And he was crying, and he only spoke Polish. And they accused him of having the gun. They wanted to know how did they get the gun, and where's the gun. He kept yelling that the gun was not his. He didn't know. Day after day, one day, the same question, the guys cried. The same Nazi took out a pistol and shot him, right in the basement in the dungeon. And I had to take him out and bury him on the field. Yeah, I didn't even remember his name. So that's why I worked for that Gestapo bit. And And there was, they had horses over there, they had cows, like a big farm used to be Archdiocese. One day, he brought in from town about 10 or 15 Jewish people with beard and one heavy-set man. I looked at the heavy-set man, I knew him. He was a doctor, a veterinarian. His name was Dr. Gonsher. And one Jewish member carried the Torah scroll. And they made a fire, and they tore up the scrolls and put them down and made everybody dance around. When I came out, they grabbed me, the Germans, and made me dance too. So my officer, German, who I worked for, had the commotion. Everybody was crying and yelling, and German were beating everybody as they danced around the fire. My officer came out, he took me away. He said, I worked for him. And so I told him about Dr. Gonsher. Dr. Gonsher was a veterinarian, worked for the Polish government. He came from Radom, and his wife was a dentist. They had one daughter, a young, beautiful girl. So I told him that he's a veterinarian, he knows about horses, so he put him in the stable. This officer took away from, and the rest of the people beat him up. I don't know whatever happened to him, took back to town. But Dr. Gonsher used to come back every day to work for check the horses. You know, the Germans liked him. But other Germans invaded his house, raped his wife and the daughter. He came home and they all committed suicide, cut their veins. Never saw Dr. Gonsher again. And this was going on. Then the same Gestapo, the same German who was so good to me, he was the one who gave all the orders to Jews to live in the Christian area, to move in the Jewish area. So we had to move out to our house. We didn't take nothing because we couldn't take anything. We got one room. One room. Our house was about 6, 7 rooms in our backyard, in a basement, in our attic. So we had to move out whatever we could carry. Moved in a house, in somebody else's house in one room. In the same Gestapo man, he moved away. He asked me if I should go with him to all that town. My parents didn't want me to go nowhere, so I said no. And so he left me. Then I had to go work. Who didn't work was worse. So everybody, old people couldn't work, so they starved to death. So I went to work for a irrigation canal. About 7 kilometers from my town, the Polish government, before the war, built a canal because the Vistula River overflows all the time. So the canal, the Germans took over and they made Jews dig canals over there. So about 300 to 400 young people from our town, we were about 6,000 to 6,000 Jews in my town. So we went to work every morning, go onto the canal and come back in the evening. And we dig that nice, beautiful canal. And they give us food. And that's what I helped my family. Otherwise, everybody was starving. My grandfather, my grandmother died from hunger in cold. There was no winter. This was already 1940 was already. It was 41. They built a fence at the ghetto. We couldn't get out, nowhere. Whoever goes out, they kill. My sister got dressed as a Christian. She put her nice clothes, put a cross. She sneaked out of the ghetto. She went with a pair of boots, what we were hiding, to a farm, and she got food. She got everything. On the way back, the Germans caught her, and I never saw my sister again. They took her and locked her up in a jail in the Christian side. She was there in jail till September 27, 1942. And they shipped her to Treblinka with all the Jews in town. What I'm jumping from 41 to 42 was the ghetto. So this was going on and on and on. And I worked in the canal, and people were starving and for hunger. And once in a while, I didn't go to work to the canal. I stayed at home, and I sneaked out from the ghetto to the Christian side to get food. A lot of people did that and never came back. I sneaked out one day and went to a Polish man who used to work for my father. I digged a hole under the wire and I sneaked out. And his house was maybe a half a mile from the fence, from the ghetto. I sneaked into his house, and I remember his wife was cooking pumpkin soup made up from a pumpkin. Every time I mention pumpkin, the smell comes back to me. And she called me Dufcha. My name is David. In Polish, my name is Dufcha. And she said, she was so scared, she was hiding me. She said, don't go to the window. And all of a sudden she started yelling, Dufcha, Dufcha, run, run, run. Uciekaj in Polish, uciekaj, uciekaj. I didn't, I went over to the window. Two Germans, one name is Schmitzke and one name is Sommer, who were doing gendarmes, caught two little girls, maybe 6 or 5 years old, twins. And they were not from my town, they were brought from our other town. And caught them near a dump to look for food. He picked up the pistol and shot them both. They were swollen, hungry, and they sneaked out behind me. I saw them in the ghetto, but I didn't know that they were sneaked out. They were out, they looked for food. And then I got the pumpkin soup, but she got like a container, and I went out through the fence across from my house, and I didn't spill a drop. I came home with the soup because it was so dear to me. And I was scared that the Germans going to see me. She said, don't go to the front, go to the back. And I went out to the back, went back to the ghetto. So that's what happened in the ghetto, and then I keep going back to the canal. And then the Germans built some barracks near the canal, so the people who work in the canal should not go back to the ghetto no more. So every once in a while I sneaked away and sneaked into the ghetto at night. If they catch me, I would be shot. But one morning, we heard the sirens. We were all in the barracks, working the canal. And this means that the sirens, all Jews have to come out from the houses and line up. This was September 27, 1942. And this is my birthday day. September 27, I was born September 27. All the people from my town were shipped away to Treblinka that day. And I left, the people who worked the canal were lucky to stay there because, okay, they shipped them away and killed them all in overnight. How do I know all this? I'll tell you later. When I was working the canal, and this was one Polish supervisor working the canal was watching us, and I was trying to escape to the railroads because it was about 5 kilometers to the railroad from that place. He caught me and said, don't go, you'll be killed. I listened to him and I went back with him. Okay, and we walked in the canal. One day, not one day, every once in a while, I sneaked away from the canal and went to the farms to get food, and also to the fields to look for potatoes. This was already October, November, it was already cold, so the farmers already got all up from the fields, and they left. There's a custom in Poland that the farmer leave for the poor. They leave some potato for the poor. They never take everything out from the fields. And that's what I went to get. Every once in a while, somebody else. Every day, somebody from my group working in the canal went to. This day, I went, and when I came back to the canal, there was nobody there in the canal. 300 to 400 people, nobody left. I got so panicked, I don't know what to do. I have beets, I have potatoes, I have piled up, put in my pants and my pockets, and the wheelbarrows and shovels standing there in the canal. No, not a living soul. I see a farmer, I went over to him, I asked him, what happened here? The farmer said, run, because the Germans are still in the area. They came, took everybody away in trucks. Away. He didn't know where, but I found out later. So I went to our little village called Brzeźnica. I knew a farmer there. I went to him, and I ran away. And a German was chasing me. I threw everything away. He was on a bicycle. I was faster, and I ran away in ravines and over the water. And finally, I came to that farmer. He took me in and left me stay in his barn. And he said, I will go Thursday, I will go to Kozienice, to the market, and I will drop you off there. The Jews in Kozienice were all cleaned out. There were only about 30 or 40 people left to clean out the houses so the German could sell this to the farmers, whatever left over. I have to have a drink.
That's fine.
So that's what happened. The farmer took me in a wagon, covered it up with vegetables, and I come to the ghetto, where there used to be the ghetto. He said, jump. So I jumped in, and the people there took me in. All my friends, everybody know me. I know everybody there, all young people. And a few old people who their sons were working for the Germans. And what I mean working for the Germans? They made boots for them, and they made pocketbooks, they made leather jackets. These people, the Germans kept, stay here, don't go on the train. All right, so I stayed with them there for a while, and I helped them empty the houses and find dead bodies who the Germans, sick people didn't go out. So the Germans killed them in the beds. And they were smelling, they had to cover, because they were lying there, rats were running around while they eating them up. You know, it was about 2-3 weeks after they were still lying, dead people. Well, the Germans one day came and said, we cleaned the ghetto up, we have to take it to Radom. So we had, this was already, I think it was already January 43. Or December 42. Was already end, was cold, winter, a lot of snow. And we walked from Kozienice to Radom with some possessions people had. I had nothing. Clothing I was wearing, that's all. In Radom, they put that in the ghetto who was already emptied. You know, they sent away the people to you. And there were still some people with influence, you know, like who has money, doctors, lawyers, people who had influence with the Germans to bribe, and the Germans only looked for gold. The Jews have a lot of gold hidden. I had nothing. I will tell you a story about, I could tell you 1,000 things about Radom, but one day the Germans came in and they said, we need some Jews to be exchanged for German prisoners who are in Palestine. The British have some prisoners in Palestine, and we exchange some Jews, but we have to be dressed nice, to have money and everything else, and we exchange. So everybody wants to be exchanged. You know, the people came out from the halls, say, here, I have money, let me go, dressed nice, and with suitcases, with everything else. I couldn't be exchanged because I had nothing. The German Red Cross came in with a nice bus, with trucks and everything else. It was about 60 or 70 or maybe 80 people came. And some mothers give the kids away to somebody who didn't have their kids. Take my kids with me. Guess what the German did? They took all the people on the bus with the trucks, with everything else, to a cemetery and shot them all, waiting for them. They were waiting there for them and shot them all. So I was lucky again. I didn't have nothing to go. That's it. This is I extended. That's what I learned in Radom. Next few days later, they shipped. They didn't ship us. They made us walk away to a town called Szydłowiec, maybe 25 kilometers from Radom. Szydłowiec, the Germans said, every Jew who is left over here and the people who are hiding should come to Szydłowiec. We're going to build a nice, beautiful Jew town, a Jew town. The Jews from Szydłowiec were already shipped out also away to Treblinka. Killed them all. There was nowhere to stay. It was cold. They put it in the factories. Used to be the town, but used to be a tanneries, a lot of made leather. In Spanish is tanneria. How do you say make tannery? No roofs, no nothing. The Polish population was stripping everything off, and we were in the cold. Not far from Treblinka, not far from Radom, is a factory called Pionki, the biggest ammunition factory in Poland. They made powder for bullets and guns. From there, all these Germans came to Radom, to Treblinka, to pick up young people for the factory, to work. And that's what happened, and German soldiers with trucks came to the Treblinka to pick up young men to work. I volunteered, I grabbed into the truck. They didn't want to take me. The first day when they came, they said, "Where's your luggage?" I said, "I have no luggage." Don't want me. They only want people with luggage so they could rob him, take it away. A Jew without anything is not worth nothing. This is the German soldiers who loaded themselves with the Jewish property. Okay. Next time I went out that day, other trucks came, I volunteered. An old couple, a friend of mine, who the German didn't want to take, old people, give me 2 bundles. So Dave, go ahead. And their son went also on the truck. When I had the bundles in my hand, they took me. And I went up the truck, I went to Pionki, and I was in Pionki for 2 years in an ammunition factory working, making powder. They taught me how to be an expert in making ammunition powder from cotton. Cotton, plain cotton. And chemicals, acid, sulfur, nitroglycerin, all kind of chemicals to mix. And I worked in a centrifuge for 2 years. My gases killed everybody. The Germans and the Polish workers who were working there had to wear masks. We didn't have no mask. They didn't give us not good food, and people were dying there like crazy. I was lucky because I was an expert in making the powder. There was a German in charge of the factory. He was named Dr. Lesche and Dr. Witte, 2 of them, 2 Germans. Dr. Witte was a German from Poland, a Volksdeutscher. He was a chemist. And he made me teach other people working at centrifuge how much chemicals to put in, how long to mix. And if you're hungry, you're confused, you could not work. He put me under supervision with a Polish supervisor who was nice to me, and I sent the Polish supervisor to a Polak in my hometown to pick up items what we were hiding in the Polish house. In this Polish house with a woman who gave me the soup. I had a lot of stuff. My mother's rugs, my mother's table, furniture. We shipped everything there to hide. So this supervisor went there and he got every once in a while something. My father's suits. So he helped me with food. And then I went to, after I finished work, I volunteered to go in to clean a room for Germans and Poles supervisors who smoke. In the factory, I was not allowed to smoke. You smoke in a special place. In the meantime, I picked up all the cigarettes butts and sold it for soup in the camp and bread. The people who smoked give away their food for a cigarette. None of them survived. None of them who smoked survived. Because they had to have their cigarettes. So they give away their rations. They couldn't live without the food. One day, one guy from my hometown, we worked night shift in the factory. He was a terrible smoker. He smoked. He was the one who put the cotton on the conveyor and shipped the conveyor to my department, and I used it to make the cotton, make the powder. He worked so many hours, maybe 12 hours a day, to get cigarettes. He worked for somebody else who didn't want to work. He punched his cart. He worked 24 hours sometimes. In one night, he fell asleep on the conveyor. And the cigarettes fall on the conveyor with a fire. And the Germans stopped the factory and they took us. We were supposed to be killed because they claimed that this was sabotage. So they announced that they're going to shoot us, and everybody from camp should come out, and we were already ready to go to be killed. Dr. Witte came, and he not allowed to kill us. He said, these people are experts, and I need the factory to run, and if they kill them, I have to take me a long time to teach others. I don't have no people, so let us go. But they beat us, the blood was running. And then, I worked in the factory. I got burned. My face got burned by explosion, but I didn't work to the end. And then the Russians were advancing. The Germans were losing the war. And how do I know that Treblinka was our gas chamber camp? One man from Kozienice who traveled to Treblinka in the transport to be killed. The Germans picked him up from the train and made him work in Treblinka. What was the work? He was loading up all the goods what they took away from the dead Jews on trains shipping to Germany. And one day, he was hiding in a train, covered himself with sacks, and came out of Treblinka alive. He passed by Radom. He jumped from the train. I don't know how he did it, but he came out alive. And he knew that his sister works in Pionki at the munition factory. He sneaked in the wires and he came into the factory. We didn't believe him, nothing. He kept saying, I'm coming from Treblinka. I was there. And he mentioned everybody's name. He mentioned my father, my mother, my sister. My sister was taken out from jail and sent on the train. He mentioned Dr. Abramovich. He mentioned Moshe Broshta. He mentioned all these people, the Freilichs. And everybody called them Michiganer. Means crazy. Unbelievable. They couldn't kill, or they couldn't gas all these people in one night. 8,000 people. They killed them all in one night. So when the Germans decided to liquidate our camp, Pionki, the factory, because the Russians were advancing, and the Germans were dismantling the machinery, shipping it to Germany, he said, I'm not going no train, he said to us. His name is Max Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum or Rosenzweig. Max Rosenzweig. I called him Max. He was a tall, handsome young man. He jumped at the fence and the German shot him. He didn't go on a train. But before that, I will tell you a story. I went to a school to speak in Virginia not long ago. And a young boy, 13 years old, after I told him my story, asked me, he said to me, did you encounter any good German? And I didn't know how to answer. I didn't know what to answer. I didn't know the question was provocative and I didn't know how to answer. So I said to him, to all people, maybe like 400 or 500 kids. So I said, I will tell you a story. I told you a story, so I'm going to repeat it. When I was in camp in Pionki, and the Germans were already trying to dismantle all the machinery, there was one German, an engineer, a civilian who worked in the factory. He came in our camp where we lived. We didn't have no water, we didn't have electricity, we had no food, we were starving. The Germans were watching us like hogs. But this German officer came in, he wants to look for volunteers. He needs help to dismantle machinery and things like this. He was a good German. Everybody knew him. I knew him too. He never yelled at anybody, never beat anybody. He was polite, he always talked to them nice. So the minute he walks in the camp, we were in groups hanging around, don't know what to do, sitting near the barracks. We saw him, everybody started running. Waving the hand, Mr. So I forget his name, I don't even remember his name. Take me, everybody wants to go with him. In like a stampede. Guess what he did? He pulled a pistol and shot in the crowd. He killed a man, a German man, I know him. And he was a good German. That's what I told the boy, and I didn't talk about that anymore. So this is the answer for I give that boy, and he said, I'm going to talk to my father. He said, they couldn't, everyone was silence, quiet. Nobody asked any question anymore after that.
David, let me stop you for a second now. This is 1943 we're at now? Is that what?
This is 1944.
44. When?
I was 2 years in Pyeongchang, 43, 44, and this was about June or July. Okay.
For time's sake, I don't want to run out of time. You got to tell me about Auschwitz.
Well, that's what the Germans came and took trains and went to Birkenau. Okay. Birkenau and Auschwitz, right next to each other. And I was burned. My face was burned from my explosion, which I didn't go to work maybe 2 or 3 weeks before this expulsion, before the Germans were taken away. So I looked healthy because I didn't do no physical work anymore. I was in camp every day. I had my soup, my ration, and this was healing with a crust of it. When it took everybody to, the trip was terrible to Auschwitz. It was about 3 days. They put a disinfectant in the train. They stiffed everybody in, maybe 100 people to our wagon. Barbed wire. Some people came out and Birkenau standing up dead. They died standing up. They couldn't fall because I was lucky. I was near the window. Me and a friend of mine, and then we were starving. But just before the German took us away to Auschwitz, we were in camp, Pyeongchang, looking for food. This is so many. I could talk. I tell 2 days about the Pyeongchang, but so much to tell. We had no food. But what happened? One day, we find a bunker. The camp was big. Used to be a big factory, but the Germans made barracks, and there we stayed. A bunker with rice and cheese. Big 25, 30-pound cheeses, maybe hundreds of them, and sacks of rice. Plain rice they didn't give us. We got that out, and whoever ate the cheese didn't make it. No water. There's no water. We start digging for water, and we dig where the pipe were, and finally we got dirty water, and I got some rice and grind it to make rice patties. I mean, like I would grind it, you know, and we had some food. The cheese, we were scared to eat because I ate some piece of cheese, but I had to, the dirty water was burning. Well, I got a jug with dirty water and the rice things I had, and took it on the train. That's what saved me. When we got off the train, people were dying. All right. We stopped in Częstochowa, we stopped in other places. The trip was unbelievable. But one guy came over to me and said, "What happened to you?" A guy from the Sonderkommando, a guy who worked, a prisoner, but worked to help the Germans take people out of the train. So I told him what happened. I said, tell him that you are a chemist, that you are mixed powder. Sure enough, a German came over and said, "What happened to you?" And I told him that I was a chemist, I make explosives. He put me aside. Me and about 30 or 40 people standing aside. The rest of them, they took him right away to the outlaws, means to disinfect you. You went in on one side, take up the clothes, and go in a gas chamber, and that's it. You don't come out. They expect to become out the other side because we give you all the clothes, we give you this, we give you that. Lie. And they made the people who helped lie because this is their job. They're going to kill them anyway too. So I went in a bad, and I came out alive. I actually didn't expect to come out alive. And the other people, the Germans took us to our other camp, the gypsy camp, where the gypsies live. They put an empty barrack and we wait there. And lucky, a German doctor, a prisoner himself, came in one day with creams, and he said, "What happened to you?" He's supposed to be from the Red Cross. He walks around with a little tassel, and he's supposed to help sick people. This was propaganda. But actually, he had some cream, and he helped me. My things fall off, my arms and my face. And one day, a big German executive with other Germans came and took me out, and then took me to a coal mine. I worked in a coal mine in Jaworzno. So they came together, a group of people, and we shipped to Jaworzno. But meantime, when I was in the gypsy camp, they took all the gypsies out and killed them. All the healthy gypsies men they shipped to Germany, and the women and children, one night they killed them all. The gypsies were happy-go-lucky people. They give them more food, the Germans. They had the accordions, they had the guitars, they were dancing and singing. You know, they were not like the Jews. They treated them very good, but then one night they gassed him. They gassed him, they took him to a gas chamber and killed him. Maybe 30,000 or maybe more, who knows. There was barracks and barracks and barracks. And I went to Jaworzno and I worked in the coal mine, and this was our hell underground. You know, we went in 200 people to work in a shift. Maybe 175, 180, 190 came out alive. Died. Some people died from hunger. Some people died from picking up from the walls clay. It looks like butter. They were hallucinating. They took it to eat it. They never made it. And then they brought new people every day. In my group, 2 people died, they bring somebody else. Anybody died, bring somebody else. So they brought a young boy, maybe 16 or 17 years old, a religious Jewish boy from Auschwitz. He came. His name was Reuben. Reuben was a religious boy. He prayed from the morning till night constantly. He didn't stop praying. And at the beginning, I criticized him. And then I got so used to it that if I didn't pray, I was worried. He was reciting the Psalms constantly, all the time. And I said, my mother prayed, my father prayed, and God didn't help us. We were very mad. Well, he sticks to me constantly. You know, he said, I'll let him be with me, or he slept next to me on a bunk. We went to work, we came home, all winter cold. The Germans have to undress us. I mean, we had to be undressed. You go take a shower. Run out in the cold, in the snow, take a shower. No water, no hot water, no soap, no towel. Some guys were willing to take the shower, they never come back. They froze on the way to death. No fat, no skin and bones. And that's what happened. And then in the coal mine, one day, we worked with Polish people who worked in the coal mine. This is their profession. They worked there before the war, they worked during the war. And there was one Polish supervisor who was not nice. He was not bad, he was a nice guy. He was the one who put the dynamite in the wall. And there also a German supervisor who walks around with a stick, you know, with a copper pick handle. He was checking the coals. And he didn't like somebody or didn't work hard enough. He went over there, hit him over the head, killed him. 1, 2, 3. He killed more people than anybody else. The Polish supervisor couldn't stand it anymore. He said to us, we were 10 people in that group. Reuben was with me and other 8 more guys. And we were supposed to produce 18 wagons of coal every shift. 18 wagons to put out. We never did. We couldn't. Impossible. The shovel weighed 10 kilo. A hard-shaped shovel. I couldn't even lift it. So the Poles said to us, when I make a sign to be silent and move away, nobody opens their mouth. Pretend that you're working. This German supervisor is coming by, and the Poles already drilled holes in the walls, and they put the dynamite, and we didn't call fire in the hall, we didn't call Achtung, we didn't call nothing. We pretended going here, going there, and he exploded the wall, a whole wall, and the German got killed. Rubin came over to me, this is after. Rubin came over to me and said, didn't God help us? I shut up, I didn't open my mouth anymore to Rubin criticizing for praying. And we stick together, did interrogate us, the Germans, and the Poles, we all told something, an accident. They didn't beat us, did nothing. He was a murderer, this guy. So Rubin said, God helped us. Okay. Then it's a lot of stories. I got operated there in Bosnia. I went to a roll call. Every morning is a roll call, you know, appeal they call it. Roll call. We stay in line and we have to count it. Everybody gives you a number. My number is B74. Tattoo here. A German comes over to me and said, what's wrong with you? My glands were like this. And I was covering up from Pionki, the gases, and the coal mine deep on the ground, there's no air, was swollen up. Out, took me out, put me in a clinic. They put me on a table, they operated without anesthetic, without anything, right here. All this pus, all this blood came out. I was there about 4 or 5 days, I don't remember exactly. You go find there the documentation, what we find in Germany just now, about last year. They find the whole report from my operation, right here. I couldn't believe my eyes, but I saw it. You know, I worked in the museum now, and I worked in the registry, and I saw it. I was the first one to see it. When they went to Germany to look for all documents from the International Trade Red Cross, they got my name first because they know me, and I was talking about so for 16 years to the people who went to Germany to see it, and then all of a sudden they got my papers. So what happened? I felt uncomfortable in the clinic. I wanted to get out after the operation. So a German nurse, also a prisoner, said to me, "You want to go to work?" "Yeah." Out. I went out. Went back to work in the coal mine. Wrapped their arms. 2 days later, they took everybody out to Auschwitz and killed everybody in the clinic. Healthy, not healthy, whoever was there. So another lucky break. Then I was going to go to the march. The Germans came in, we came in from work from the coal mine, everybody out, marching. They didn't let us in, hook up, and you have to walk. We walked and walked for miles and days and nights and walked towards Germany. I wound up in a place called Bleichhammer. And Ruben next to me, holding my hands. We lying on the snow. The snow is coming like buckets. The main highway is full of tanks and trucks for Germans. They're retreating. The Russian army is shooting. We could hear the guns. And the Germans still, Ukrainians and Germans with SS holding us under the gun and shooting everybody who's falling down. Like flies. Like when you turn back and you see the horizon, you only see dead people and live people together lying in the snow. And that's all you see is snow. In a black cloud, like lying there. One evening, the Germans, the Nazis, went in the houses to warm up. And we had to lie with the face down. And not far from me, I saw dogs running and coming, dogs in the snow. So I said, there's dogs, there must be some food, they're coming and going. And Ruben said, don't go, you're going to kill you. I said, the Germans are inside to warm me up. I crawled over there. There was a dead horse. The dogs were gone, they've been tearing it apart. I pulled up a piece of meat with a bone from the ribs. And I come back, and me and Ruben was kosher. He could eat now, nothing else. He ate everything. He himself defend that if you're in a situation like this, God will forgive you. So we chewed the bone, me and him, and we ate this meat. And then we start marching till Blijhammer. And Blijhammer, the Germans start burning all the barracks, but the people didn't want to come out. So, and me shooting, and then the Russians were advancing, coming closer and closer. And me and him and other Russian prisoners, and other prisoners, knocked out a wall, but there was no electricity in the barbed wire, and we run in the forest. And that's what I stayed 6 days and 6 nights. How did I live for 6 days and 6 nights? Before we escaped from Jaworzno, we broke into a warehouse. And what did I get? Tons of margarine. I tied up my foot, my back, and everywhere I put margarine in. And I got a lot of margarine, and the margarine melted when I was walking in the woods. And when I needed to eat, I scratched up the margarine with the coal dust from the coal mine. It was still on me because we didn't take the baths. It was so filthy. In the same clothing I was wearing, that same underwear for 2 years. And we licked the fingers. Guess who didn't go with me? Ruben. He couldn't go because he got shot. He said he don't know how. He was bleeding and bleeding. I wrapped around his legs, put him in a barn, and I was staying there. And I wound up with 2 Russian prisoners, soldiers, 2 Russian who were prisoners, and me and them went really deep in the woods, and were staying there for 6 days. When we came out, we found the Russian army. One Russian picked me up with one arm, like a piece of wood. And he took me into a German woman's house. And there was a woman with her daughter, and he told them to take care of me. And Ruben survived the war. I met him in the best place in the world, in Israel, in 1948. How did he survive? He was in the barn, and the Russian came in. And he came out, and they helped him. And he wound up in a DP camp. From there, he went to Italy. He went on an illegal ship to Cyprus. And in Cyprus, he was there almost till 1948, because it was in Germany for a while, then in Cyprus. And then after Israel became independent, he came into Israel. And I went to look for a friend of mine, and I saw Ruben. We cried. He said, don't cry. I'm all right. He became a rabbi. He had 11 children, lived in Jerusalem.
Now, were you ever liberated, or the war was over and you were free, or what? What happened?
I was free when the Russian army came in. I was free. And the Russian told me, "Yidi Chortu," means go to hell, go where you want. The Russian didn't have nothing to themselves. The Russian war was still going on. I was liberated in January 1945. The war ended in May. I was already free, but free with nothing. I have nowhere to go. Where did I go? Back to Poland, to my hometown. expecting somebody. Didn't find nobody. We find no home. My house is taken over by other people. I have nothing. I have no money. I have no profession. I have no job. I went in there 16 years old. I came out of for 22.
How much did you weigh?
I weighed, when the Russian soldier picked me up, I probably weighed about 60 or 70 pounds. I didn't weigh myself. I was wearing wooden shoes. The German woman who took me in washed me. I remember she made that soup. She didn't have nothing herself. She made that soup, some kind of cream soup. It helped. Lucky she didn't have the food. If she would have had food, I would have died from stuffing myself up. It stayed for a while to recuperate, and then she told me the way how to get out to the main highway, and I walked to Poland, then to a railroad station, and jumped on trains, and finally I reached Radom. From Radom I walked home 30 kilometers, and I came to the cemetery, and I went up to my grandfather's grave and cried. The cemetery right on the highway to my town, and I cried, and a Polish farmer picked me up, in which he knew me. He took me home and gave me a bed to sleep. I had nowhere to go. My house was taken over. There was a printing shop there, and Paul says, I bought it. And I couldn't get, and I went to that Paul who used to work for my father, and I was afraid that they're going to kill me because I'm going to take back my property who was there. The only thing he gave me is a big table, which I sold it for bread. And then I went to the hospital, but my toe was frozen up. And I stayed there for 2 weeks, till other Jewish people came home. A friend of mine came home, he came home, and we saw there's no reason to stay here, so we took off to Germany. We could still travel on train for free, because everybody shows a number. I show them a number, the conductor lets you travel free. So we traveled to Czechoslovakia to Germany. In Germany, the Jewish agency got us to Finland, a place in Bavaria, a DP camp. And there the Americans were there, and they would give us milk and honey. That's all. The Americans give you everything. They say, stay here, that's it. But I didn't stay still. I was 2 years in the DP camp, and I roamed around Germany. I bought guns for the Haganah and all that stuff.
David, why did you survive? A lot of people did. Why? Do you ever ask yourself why you survived?
This is the question which I never know how to answer. Why? The only one. I had a family, maybe 60 or 70 people. My father had 4 more brothers. He was 42 years old. My mother had 3 more brothers in her, in a different town. She was in a place called Lukov. And they all shipped him there. And I have documentation, which I find in the museum, documents the requisition. The German authority asked the train authorities to send train to Kozienice, and I have it in German. I don't know if I brought it here, or maybe I have it home. Because I want to write a letter to that denier, to that Catholic denier, and ship him the copy of the requisition from the train who goes to Treblinka, from Kozienice to Treblinka, the train. And the date, September 27th, I have a whole list of it. And all towns, Radom, Szydłowiec, Lukov, Dęblin, all this town, Bąkowiec, all the town, I thought I put it in there. And I work in a place upstairs, the 5th floor of the museum, and that's all I do. And you saw pictures here which nobody even sees it, and I know everybody's name. Everybody's name. They're already dead. All these people, I was in a town, 5,000 Jews. And when I grew up, my father used to call me a lobos, means a bully. He said, don't go here, don't go there, don't play soccer. But I did. I played soccer. I played ski. I have ice skate. You know, and now religious people don't do that. You know, I had little pies, but I got 13 years old. They cut it off because I was like a bad boy. Maybe this is the reason I survived, because I took risks. I went to work for the Germans, unloading coal so they could be warm. So I stole a lot of coals, and they caught me. And they beat me up and took away the coal. You think I give up? I went back and got the coal. Somebody think what I did. I to survive, nobody risks every few days to go away from the canal and they find you away, you're dead. Smuggled. In Pionki, I worked with Poles, and they brought in a grain. In Poland, they use that grain to cook, to use that grain for chicken, for geese, to stuff geese. You know, in Poland, they don't let the geese feed themselves, they stuff them. They put in with like a bib to get them fat. This grain, I smuggled into the camp. And we cooked it. It's like grits, beautiful like grits. And I sold it. People who had money.
We're just about out of time. I want to ask you a question. What does freedom mean to you?
I heard you asking what freedom. This country is freedom. You could talk. You could say what you like. You could have a freedom to get a job, whatever you want. Freedom of education. In Poland, you couldn't go. They put quotas on you. The Polish Jews had quotas. If they 100 Poles in one class, they allowed one Jew to go in. They couldn't allow Jews to be doctors. You know how many doctors they have Jews in the United States? 90% are Jewish. Why? Because that's what the Jews like to be, doctors, professors. In Poland, they couldn't do that. My grandson became an engineer. 1, 2, 3, he has a big job, the biggest job work for the American government. In Poland, no chance. In Germany, the same way. In Hungary, when we arrived, they even killed people who they tattooed. I don't know why. The Germans are very funny. They have a B, mine is B74. I was in line, the 74 person from that particular group. I know it because I remember a friend of mine, he is 927. So he was, and then I met a guy who was number 70. And I remember him staying in front of me. So why? I don't know.
Did you ever get married?
Oh yeah.
Is your wife still alive?
My wife is here at home. She's waiting for me.
How many years you married?
I was married in 1958.
Okay. So almost 50 years?
Yeah, 51.
How many children?
I have 2 children and 2 grandchildren. One daughter, one son, and one grandson, one granddaughter. One granddaughter is in college in Richmond.
So you're living in this country?
Since 1955.
And
I came from Panama in 1955.
When you look at pictures that you do have of yourself, you're a good-looking young man in those pictures, and you've lived your life. I mean, this is something that's a part of your life every day, right?
Well, I work in the Holocaust Museum, and it's actually part of my life. Yeah, my wife is an American; she's born here.
What do you think about people that say it didn't happen?
That's why I'm working in the museum. I'm telling them. Yeah. That's why I'm going right to that priest and to the Pope too. To the German Pope.
How do you feel?
Are you Catholic? You're Catholic, isn't it?
No, but I grew up Catholic, but I'm not Catholic.
You're Italian, you're Catholic.
Well,
I lived in Italy too.
Yeah. How do you feel about our country today?
Should I talk about politics or should I talk how I feel about the country?
Just in 2 minutes. I mean, you've lived a long time. You've lived a lot of years. How do you feel about our country today?
It's still a democratic country. I still like it. It's still better here than anywhere else in this world. There's no other country like our United States. We have a nice constitution. Freedom, that's important, freedom. If you're not free, you're not nothing. Freedom of speech, you know what this means? We couldn't talk.
You know, one of the things that amazed me, you told me people died standing up in those boxcars.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, they were packed like sardines, like wood. How can they?
Do you remember? I mean, how long were you in there? A day?
3 days.
Were people crying, screaming, praying?
Yeah, they have no strength to cry anymore, and their disinfectant kill you. Imagine, and they urinate and the smell is unbelievable.
Did you pray that you would die, or I mean?
We expected to be die. I didn't pray much. Maybe I did pray. I don't remember anymore. We prayed before. My mother prayed all the time, every day, died before the war, after the war.
Do you think? How do you feel about God today versus before the Holocaust? Do you feel the same way about God, or how do you feel about that?
Well, I don't know what to tell you. Sometimes I feel like I believe in God, and sometimes I don't. There's some people. For instance, I tell you one more story. There was a guy in my town who was a collaborator. What do you mean collaborator? The Germans picked him, and his mother used to say, "Thank God we shouldn't pray for another king." When he was picked as a go-between the Jewish people and the Germans, we called him collaborator. And his mother was a religious woman, and she said, we should pray to God, not to pray to God for another king. Hitler is all right. This was in the beginning. She died too. But the Germans sent him to Pionki, the factory where I was. When he came to Auschwitz, guess what happened to him? I hate to say it. The people who are tattooing us, the people who are shaving us, they shave you everywhere, on your body, on your hair, everywhere. Find out that this collaborator is our group because I came in Pionki. They shaved him okay, they cut his balls. And he bleed to death. So some people said God did it. So what I'm trying to bring out, also I want to tell you one more thing.
Sure, go ahead.
When we were in the camps, when we were in the trains, when we were working everywhere, we had a code. In Hebrew they call it nekama. Vengeance. Vengeance and vengeance. We only thought our lips were coming out the word vengeance. Constantly. We wrote on the trains vengeance. We scribbled on the walls vengeance. Nekama in Hebrew. But when I survived and I wanted to take Nekama, the Americans didn't let us. That's what bothered me. And still now, I'm still feel guilty that I didn't take much Nekama.
So you survived. You didn't want to die. You expected to die, but you didn't die. So you didn't give up, right? You didn't.
I did. Well, there's a lot of people who die just without even knowing that they're going to make it. We didn't know.
Did you tell your kids all these things for you?
Yeah, sure.
Do you talk to young kids today? You say
I'm going this Wednesday. I'm speaking again in the museum. The young kids. I have an engagement this Wednesday, and then the 18th I had another one, and I went to Puerto Rico not long ago, and I spoke to about 500-600 kids, in Spanish and in English. I speak Spanish. Perfect. So they wanted me to go to Mexico. I didn't want to go. I just refused it.
Right.
I have no strength no more. You know, I'm 86. Trying to cut down.
When you walk through the museum, what part of the museum is...
I work on the 5th floor in the museum. I don't.
But when you have walked through there, which part of the museum means the most or is the most powerful to you?
I look at the pictures with the people who hanging there in the middle. Probably you saw them. And I look at their faces, and I see myself, right there. I have friends here on the pictures you see here who didn't make it. And I hang them up at the museum and I put names on them. I said, look at them, they're not just dead, they are people who have got names. In my hometown was a photographer. His name was Chaim Berman, a studio photographer. He was the best in the world. An intelligent man, very rich. He lived not far from me, in the same street. When the Germans came in, German officers came to take pictures from him. When they created the ghetto, he had to move into the ghetto. He took all negatives with glass negatives, boxes and boxes, hundreds of boxes, put them in the boxes and hid them in the ghetto and an addict. Listen to this. About 10 years ago, one Polish man moved into that house from the ghetto in my hometown. He came to the museum in Warsaw. We have an office there. He asked to sell it. And all the pictures of my hometown. So the museum called me, Dave, this is Kozienice. This is the town from where I was born. And I pinpoint all the names, the people. Even my picture was there, one picture of mine. And the Paul wanted $40,000 to $50,000. I said, no, don't give it to him. And they didn't. This Paul didn't stop there. He went to Yad Vashem in Jerusalem. He sold some of it there. They bought it. Then there's a woman in Warsaw. Her name is Alina Skibinska, a Polish woman who works for the museum in Poland. She wrote me and sent me a disc of all the pictures. I don't know how she got it. And I have some of them here, some of them home, some of them in the museum. And I give everyone a name because I remember everybody. And they died in Treblinka. That's what I'm doing in the museum now. I can't stay. People who die, nobody even know they existed. The Pope doesn't know that they existed. He going to rehabilitate a son of a bitch, pardon my expression, Englishman who didn't happen. It's easy to say. Why? Because he's anti-Semite. He's a crusader. They killed the Crusader Jews in Spain. They killed them, and they go from England in York. They killed all because of religion. That's why I don't like to get involved in religion, because you asked me about God.
I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we'll be done for this.
And I'm angry. A lot of times I'm angry.
I understand. Listen, Dave. One more question. What should our country remember about the Holocaust?
Our country should remember that this could happen again and again and again. There's happening in Africa. They're killing their people for nothing because they're poor and helpless. Our country have to learn a lesson that we have to be strong. Because this could happen here. You could get a dictator, a son of a bitch, or somebody who come here, and he could change around the whole system. It could happen here. I was in Mexico years ago, maybe 25 years ago. A taxi driver told me, he said, we will have Mexico back, California and New Mexico and all back to Mexico because it's ours. There comes some kind of dictator, some kind of Latino, who knows what can happen. He could say, yeah, we have to give it back to Mexico. So it'll be a revolution, so he'd be a dictator. It could happen here. It could happen. Because abolish the Constitution, abolish everything else, and make a dictatorship. It could happen. Maybe, I hope not in my lifetime. I hope my grandchildren shouldn't see that. I hope not. I hope and pray. Then I won't pray. It's time for me to go.
We're done.